The filing cabinet exploded just as the auditor's hologram began materializing. Papers cascaded across Terran Station Alpha's administrative hub in geological layers. Yesterday's supply requisitions balanced on last month's diplomatic cables, which somehow supported napkin sketches that constituted humanity's official terraforming proposals. The acrid smell of coffee mixed with ozone from jury-rigged electronics, while extension cords snaked between terminals that definitely violated several manufacturer warranties. Mike, Lars Brennan called towards the maintenance bay, clutching his fourth cup of coffee. Please tell me you got that thing working. Mike Parker's voice drifted back, muffled by whatever he was currently repairing. Define working. Opens if you kick it twice and say please. Light coalesced into the tall, angular form of Vex, the Galactic Alliance's most thorough auditor. His pale blue skin gleamed under harsh lighting, and his four arms moved with mechanical precision as documentation tablets materialized around him like orbiting moons. His large eyes, perfectly adapted for reading fine print, swept the room with growing alarm. Administrator Brennan, Vex's voice carried crisp authority. I trust your facilities are prepared for a comprehensive review. Lars gestured at their magnificent disaster. This was it, humanity's first real administrative success in galactic politics, and it looked like a thrift store had exploded in a library. Welcome to our finest bureaucratic achievement. Coffee? Where are your filing systems? Right here, Lars patted the duct-taped cabinet. Everything from the last 6 months. Digital archives. Mike emerged from behind a control panel, grease on his coveralls, satisfaction on his face. He pointed to 3 network terminals in a corner. Primary server, backups in my toolkit, emergency backups on Jenny's tablet. Jenny? Night shift communications, makes excellent sandwiches. Vex's tablets began spinning faster. According to our records, you were assigned to establish 3 trade routes. About that, Lars rummaged through papers. We established 8. 8? The spinning accelerated. Turns out when you're not bound by predetermined routes, you find better paths. Lars held up a napkin with a star chart sketched in blue ink. This is the Rigel bypass. Cut travel time by 30%. Drew it up during lunch with Captain Martinez. Vex stared at the napkin. This is your official documentation? For that route, yeah. Lars produced a cocktail napkin from the orbital cantina. This one's the Kepler junction, negotiated during happy hour with 3 species representatives. Everyone's more reasonable after a few drinks. The tablets orbited faster. Security personnel. You were assigned 50 officers. We fielded 200. How? Half our civilians used to be military, Mike said. When we called for volunteers, they just showed up. With the proper certifications? With proper attitudes. You can train someone to fill out forms, but you can't train them to run toward danger when everyone else runs away. Lars showed Vex a video on his tablet. A grizzled woman in civilian clothes casually volunteering for combat duty. Got 40 more like it. Treat people like adults instead of forms to be processed, they respond pretty well. All 4 of Vex's arms began gesticulating, the galactic equivalent of throwing up your hands. The terraforming project, 3 months ahead using unauthorized methods. We figured out the approved atmospheric processors were over-engineered, Mike said with quiet pride. Stripped them down, doubled output, added creative modifications. You build atmospheric processors from spare parts? And some stuff from hydroponics. Point is, it worked. Plans breathable, 6 months early, under budget. Under budget? The tablets hummed with increased velocity. When you don't order everything through official channels, you get creative with sourcing. But quality control is excellent, Lars interrupted. When Mike Parker puts his name on something, it works. I'll trust his improvised processor over any factory model. The emergency klaxon shattered their debate. Priority alert, the station's AI announced. Civilian transport Lucky Strike reporting navigation failure in the Helix asteroid field. Collision imminent. Vex immediately accessed his tablets. Standard rescue procedure requires calculating optimal vectors, coordinating with sector command, filing emergency reports. How long? Lars asked, already moving. 47 minutes for full compliance. Mike was at his communications array before Vex finished speaking. Lucky Strike, this is Alpha. 3 freight haulers in your sector. Adjusting flight paths now. His fingers danced across controls. Big Betty, your primary intercept. Iron Horse and Steady Eddie, flanking positions. Copy, Alpha. We see the transport, moving to assist. Time to intercept? Lars checked his chronometer. 4 minutes. Vex stared at his still calculating tablets. You've already deployed rescue assets? 3 cargo haulers with my grapples and emergency life support. Betty's got the best pilot. They watched 3 ungainly freight haulers, ships never designed for rescue, maneuver through the asteroid field with surprising grace. Captain Sarah Parker threaded Big Betty between spinning rocks, her industrial my grapples reaching out like gentle hands. Transport secured, came Sarah's voice. Engine failure. Life support down to 20 minutes, but we've got them. Heading home. Total time? Vex asked faintly. 3 minutes, 42 seconds, Mike replied. Vex looked at his tablet, still processing algorithms. His arms slowly lowered. You saved them. Because when someone needs help, you help first, ask questions later. But if something had gone wrong, we deal with that too. Same way we deal with everything else. Vex stood silent, tablets finally still. How do you live with such uncertainty? Lars poured out coffee and offered the pot to Vex, who surprisingly accepted. Because certainty's an illusion. You can plan for everything you can think of, but the universe has imagination. So we prepare for what we can predict, stay flexible for everything else. And if you make mistakes, we fix them, Mike said simply. Vex sipped the coffee, his first taste of the substance that fueled human bureaucracy. This is surprisingly effective. Coffee? Your methodology. Vex chose his words carefully. You operate outside parameters, but exceed projections. You violate protocols, but achieve their intent. Rules exist to help people succeed. When following them makes you fail, question the rules. But how do I report this? Document a system that works because it refuses documentation? Mike grinned. Very carefully? Vex actually smiled. I understand it now. You don't follow procedures because you are the procedure. Human judgment, adaptability, calculated risks. These are your protocols. Now you're getting it. In the chaos? Lars gestured around their organized disaster. This isn't chaos. It's a system optimized for rapid response and creative problem solving. Every paper represents something that worked. Every connection Mike built solves a real problem. It looks like chaos, but is specialized order. Vex began dictating, his tone transformed. Audit findings. Terran Station Alpha operates using unconventional methodologies, producing superior results. Recommendation. Establish new category. Controlled chaos protocols. I like that, Lars said. Secondary recommendation. Investigate human problem solving for integration with Alliance procedures. Particular attention to provisional authorization with indefinite extension pending results. Fancy way of saying wing it and see what happens, Mike snorted. Perhaps, but your winging it achieved more in 11 months than most stations in 3 years. So we pass? Vex's arms moved in an alien shrug. You've exceeded every metric while violating every protocol. I'm not sure how to classify that. How about mission accomplished? At the hologram pad, Vex paused before dematerializing. Administrator Brennan, same time next year? Lars raised his coffee cup. I'll have the coffee ready. As the hologram faded, Mike looked up from his workstation. Think he'll recommend shutting us down? Lars glanced at the tactical display, where 3 freight haulers escorted a rescue transport home. He looked at their chaotic office where every disorder served a purpose. He thought about routes sketched on napkins, forces recruited through personal messages, processors built from determination and spare parts. No, he said. I think he's learning that sometimes the best way to follow rules is knowing which ones are worth breaking. Outside the viewport, stars shone with infinite possibility. Somewhere among them, problems waited for people who understood that the best response to "that's impossible" was hold my coffee and watch this. The audit was over. The real work could continue.